Ladies and gentle hands, we are now on 1.21.4, the Pale Garden update. The Garden Awakens. There's a few new features in this update, obviously the Creaking and the Pale Garden, but also, more importantly for us, the Pale Wood. Look, I've used a little bit of it right here. We did a live stream exploring the new update, and it was a good old time, a jolly good old time. Thanks for whoever came out to that. And if you do want to catch live streams, you can turn on notifications on the channel or join the Discord in the description below. But yes, we explored the Pale Garden and explored the Creaking, which, by the way, the Creaking and like the whole Pale Garden update is actually really good. Now, if you've been living under a rock, I think I want to take the time to explain the update and why I think it's actually so good, and one of the big cons of the update, and I think I have a suggestion for it too. So it's nighttime and you're walking through the Pale Garden, creaking and cracking and the little rain in the background. Then all of a sudden you hear a sound. So you approach the Creaking, and when you hit them, instead of taking damage, a bunch of particles spawn, directing the player towards where the Creaking heart is. And also it builds up resin around the tree, so it's even more of an indicator like, hey, this is the tree that the Creaking this is the Creaking Heart tree. Then finally, when you do break the Creaking Heart, there's a sweet death animation. Look at that thing. It just freaks out and dies. Cool. I think this is so good because it like fully guides the player on the cause and effect of the Creaking and shows all of the Creaking's mechanics without having to leave the game at all, which I think is so like immersive. So one con with this is other mobs that spawn in the Pale Garden are such a nuisance and like take your attention away from the Creaking entirely. And they're just annoying, straight up. So I think a good fix for this is to make it so other mobs are afraid of the Creaking, and it would introduce new mechanics for like technical players and also for new players if you were to like pick up on this when you're playing, which I think is like a unique way of doing mob farms instead of doing all these technical things where, you know, they can spawn in this spot under these certain conditions and use water to push them out on like a bunch of redstone. Overall, I think the Creaking is pretty freaking sweet for a game drop, a random update. I think it hit the mark and introduced a bunch of cool new blocks too, like the Pale Wood and kind of resin. Resin is a little too crazy for me. But yeah, that's how the Creaking works. So we're talking about the Pale Garden a lot in this video, and it's because we're gonna be working in the Pale Garden for this video. I have a really fun build ever since they announced the theme of this update and the biome, you know, when they did the Minecraft live announcement. I wanted to do a grayscale build to really help kind of sell the a more of a purpose to come to this place, because to be honest, you know, the Creaking is fun and all, but there's no other reason to really visit this place once you get a Creaking heart. So I want to give a bit more of a reason for us to come back here in the future. So we're going to set up a resin farm so we can get all the cool resin blocks, and maybe even a little bit of a flower farm because we can bone meal the grass to get more of the eye blossoms. Yes. What exactly are we going to be building? We're going to be building a mansion, the Pale Mansion. Now, kind of similar to the Woodland Mansion, but we're going to be working in a bit of a different theme. I'm thinking more like Victorian style. I've never built Victorian before, but I've always been like so enamored by like the architectural style of it. So I think that could be really fun to try to, you know, make a sort of Victorian mansion kind of in the middle of the Pale Garden, sticking out above the trees, but still very in theme with the whole, you know, grayscale, desaturated vibe of this place. But we still want a little bit of color. You know, the eye blossoms, right? They got the orange tip in there. So I think I want to try to implement some sort of orange in there. And then obviously we'll have some whites as our highlights and mostly gray for the rest of the building. All right, so I'm gonna work on clearing out some space down here in the trees amongst the Creaking. And, oh, and there's our portal. Look at that. I think we'll just get started. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the montage. And here is the Pale Manor. Instead of the Pale Mansion, I think the Manor sounds way more menacing. But the vibe here is so sick. Just here at nighttime, like the black sky, the super starry sky. Obviously, Astrocraft, my favorite mod, is not updated yet. So we just have the regular Minecraft sky, but still it's very spooky. The orange glow from the inside peeking through a few of these front windows. And also just the orange, you know, matching the flowers here, and they're all open in this beautiful walkway up to the front porch. Oh man, this build is awesome, especially at nighttime. This is so cool. The lighting works really well to contrast with the whole build. And of course, the porch here is a little bit mob-proof because had a run-in with a creeper earlier. Very fun to clean that up. All right, we're gonna sleep though because I want to talk about some of the build. Oh yeah, and all the flowers close up. Oh, I think it's so cool. So yeah, during the day, it's a little bit of a different vibe. The orange is not nearly as present, but it still comes through the windows here, and these little candlesticks I think are pretty cool as well. Kind of help aiding lighting up the area and contrasting, you know, with the place. So the first thing you'll notice is that we have a lot of these fences here. These are like the kind of Victorian style, like very sharp pointed fences. I think it does a pretty good job, you know, one bar and then a candle to kind of get the little tiny spike, and then the other big spiky, tiny spike, big spike. Nice little stone path leading up here, kind of staying in theme with the whole grayscale. First off, this right here, these little poles and the little arches between them, so fun using signs to create this full little mini arch. So cool, I love it. Now I use trapdoors here because I think I like the texture a bit more than I like the slab, especially if it's just straight continued. But let me know what you guys think of that. I think it looks pretty good having a little extra bit of texture there. So for the main palette here, we have a cobblestone, mossy cobblestone, tough, and then the pale moss. Works so freaking well with tough. It's actually crazy. And they like all kind of blend pretty well with the green as well. Green doesn't stand out too badly in this biome, especially this very muted green from the mossy cobble. Because the pale moss here has a little hint of green. So it kind of works really well, and especially the tough up there. It has a lot of green and blues. Of course, for some shadows, we use a little bit of deep slate there. I think I actually need to replace this right here with some deep slate. There we go, fix that up. Yeah, these windows are also really fun to make. You know, now we have the pale trapdoors. Oh, it makes it so much easier to do white window frames, especially this build. It works really well. But like, you know, we used to have to use iron trapdoors to get this effect. You know, just a solid white if you want to do a white trimmed window. Now we actually have the option for it. It's so nice. Little white sign here at the bottom to kind of help, you know, complete the trim. And then we're using quartz instead of pale oak, just because the pale oak is a little bit darker and like dirtier in tone, like the planks here. So I think the smooth quartz works really well to work with the trapdoors there. And of course the windows, we have the nice framed look here. The panes, you know, when they connect up on the double layer, it creates the nice middle line there, and it creates nice little, you know, like rectangle window shapes and has a nice pattern to it. Looks a little bit more royal, so it works really well for this type of Victorian style. Oh yeah, and then finally got to have a use of my iron farm and made a bunch of anvils, about a stack I think, and surrounded the whole top, you know, rounded it all out with the same kind of spiky fence look and a nice little chimney over here to help with the asymmetry of the build. I think this build is so appealing. You know, there's a little bit more heaviness on this side. There's more detail over here, but there's still a little bit going on here. I just think it is very nicely asymmetrical. And, oh, and another thing. Okay, this part is sick. So, as you can see, the front of the building feels a little bit more extruded, this front rectangle here, because right here on the sides, we're using black stained glass to kind of create a little bit more depth with like the ambient occlusion. I think that's like what the technique is called, because there's only actually a 2-block gap here between the back wall, which is not nearly enough depth and such a small scale build that this glass here works to help, you know, accentuate those corners a little bit and kind of makes it feel a bit further back. Overall, I'm actually really freaking happy with this build. I had such a short amount of time to work on it, and you know what that means. Now, of course, in classic Barce fashion, we have no interior. Now, we'll worry about interior in a second here. I do want to work on some farms on the inside here. We're gonna have 2 farms to be specific. Our first farm is going to be on this first layer, on this first floor, and it's just going to be a resin farm. We're going to use the creaking mechanics to abuse the creaking, I guess, and how they function. And we'll try to make some sort of little funnel where they all funnel into a single spot. We'll have a bunch of creakings and creaking hearts everywhere. They'll funnel into a spot, we smack them, and a bunch of resin spawn, and then like we'll have pistons move or something and drop all the resin into some hoppers. And then on the second floor, we'll make a little bit of a flower farm. That's pretty self-explanatory, nothing too crazy. I've made plenty of flower farms in the past, especially when we made our flower field for the windmill. So I'm just gonna use the same design, but in the upper floor. and that'll just be a little staircase going up there. But yeah, let's come back here with some more resources so we can actually work on the farm. All right, our interior is ready, all lit up, safe from any bad guys. And I think it's time for a little bit of redstone. This is gonna be interesting because I suck at redstone. All right, so here's the premise of what I'm planning on doing. Ready? So on the back wall here, we're gonna have a bunch of creaking hearts along the wall, and we're gonna have some pistons on the top and bottom. Okay, then with those creaking hearts, there's gonna be a water flowing into like a center point where I'm gonna be standing there. And then when the farm activates at nighttime, I turn around and all the creaking spawn and they fall into the water and they flow towards me. Then once they're all in one single spot, I can sit there with my sweeping edge sword and I can smack it. And every time I smack it, there will be resin that'll spawn by the creaking hearts, and then we'll have pistons that'll move it up and down, and the resin will fall off and fall into the water stream or the copper's behind. Okay, I think that makes sense. Would it work? Don't know. Let's find out together. Oh. Oh no, this is bad. Okay, there's 2 so far. Only those 2 guys spawned inside. How do I force them to spawn inside here? Okay, yes, this kind of works. Not exactly as intended, but now if I smack them with my sword... Oh, okay, this can work. I'm gonna make some sort of like little redstone lever over here that would, that activates it. Or that like pushes the pistons up and down. Okay, I think I know how to do this, or how it's supposed to work. I think I need to do some more fleshing out of this. So I tried to figure out the pistons and the moving the whole wall, and I couldn't quite figure it out. Turns out you can't move the creaking hearts. So I moved on to working on something I did know how to do with redstone, which was the flower farm. Very simple, of course. I've already done it like a billion freaking times. And there we go, a nice and simple eyeblossom farm. Yippee! What the heck? Now that I got my redstone brain all warmed up, I decided to try again to figure out this farm. So I found a cool redstone clock that would work for a system, set up some nice pistons in this fancy little C shape. Got some nice wiring and oh yeah, look at that wiring. So freaking awesome. I don't even know what I'm doing here, but it worked. It works. I set up the same water system as before, and then I did a little bit of mob proofing around the mansion to make sure that the guys would spawn on the inside only. Now we got 3 here. We turn on the contraption, boom. And now the piston walls move back and forth. Right, yes, awesome. And you can see the resin pops off on the side there. And I just do a little attacky tack every, 5 seconds or so. And we get more resin and it pops off the walls. It works perfectly. Now the only issue is that I had to go around and mobs proof spawn a bunch of this. And I guess got to do even more than I anticipated. Because a guy spawned there. But anyways, this farm was actually pretty simple. If you want to make it for yourself in your own world, let me do this. Let's see if I can get away with this. Downstairs here. Go. Okay, I think we should be fine. So it's a pretty simple clock right here. We're just powering this block right here and sending a nice quick little pulse through, which is powering this piston, and this observer is giving a little quick pulse decay through this, and then all of this is sending a 1 pulse tick all the way through the system, which is just moving these back and forth. We have just a bunch of redstone up here that's kind of running all around and just making sure all these pistons are activating. All right, but anyways, we're going to deactivate this farm and sleep because I don't need resin right now. Okay, chill, guys. Chill. Oh, I can't sleep right here. What am I doing? And you can see we already collected about 4 stacks of resin. So this isn't a bad place to go and just AFK for a night or 2 and just collect a bunch of these resin blocks. I don't know how often I'll build with them. They're here. Actually, here, let's look at them. So first we have the resin or block of resin, which actually, this has one unique property, which is that it's insta-break with fists. So it's kind of good for like scaffolding maybe. Kind of like slime blocks, I guess, right? Slime blocks and honey blocks can be insta-broke like this as well. So that's pretty cool. And then you smelt up these resin clumps to get resin ingots. Wait, I wonder if you can smelt these clumps with the blast furnace. Oh no, you can't. You can't. No. Man, the blast furnace needs more uses, SMH. But anyways, once you get enough resin bricks, actually not resin ingots, you can make a resin bricks. I guess kind of like regular bricks. And they look like Mario blocks. They're like way too bright. I like their texture. The texture themselves is actually really nice, but it's a little too bright and crazy. Kind of gives me Purpur vibes in a weird way. Where like Purpur is a little too weird of a purple color. It's too light to work in a lot of context or like a lot of different builds. Like this isn't really gonna work with any other blocks. It'll work with acacia and like red sandstone, obviously, but it's just a little too saturated, too vibrant. Oh, look at that! The flower is going away. Oh, it's so cool. Honestly, this build is pretty freaking sick, and oh, creeper, hello. But yeah, I'm very happy with this build. I think it very much fits the theme of the Pale Garden update. So we're coming up on a new year. Happy New Year's Eve, everyone, as of this upload. Now, what I'm doing this year is I'm writing down my New Year's resolutions, and I'm going to speak them into the world as well. I'm going to continue my uploading streak of uploading weekly throughout the year of 2025. I've achieved my goal. I started this channel in February 23rd of 2024. So let's see if we can do a whole nother year. We're coming very close on a full calendar year of actually uploading weekly, which is so freaking awesome. I also want to thank you guys for 10,000 subs and 100K views on my last video. The beta video did so well. So if you're new from that video and you're watching this, welcome to the channel. Hope you're enjoying the hardcore video. I usually have a bit longer episodes for this, but I'm a bit constrained on time. I was gone for Christmas, and I didn't have any time to work on the video, so I'm kind of doing this entire video all within one day. So it's a bit shorter than usual. But I think we encapsulated the update pretty well. We spent a lot of time here in the Pale Garden, using all the new blocks. The pale wood is so awesome. I'm so excited to use it outside of the Pale Garden and also to just this build, appreciate this. This is awesome. I've never built Victorian before, and I'm glad I've spread my wings out into this build style. And if you're also a builder and you want to experiment with something new, I recommend this build, this architecture style, because it is very intricate. There's a lot of unique designs and references you can find online. This is actually a reference to Disneyland Paris, the Phantom's Manor, I think it's what it's called, and it's pretty freaking sick. So there's a lot of cool architecture you could copy out there, and I went with Victorian. So that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. As always, if you're new to the channel, make sure to get subscribed. If you liked the video, make sure to drop a like, and if you liked me, consider joining as a member. All right, but that's going to do it. Bye.